Hello, this is Vicky from the Spellbound Bead Company with the second part of our beaded needle case video. So at the end of the first video, I'd left you working up the needle case to complete the 48 rows on the grid above the start line. So that's this 48 rows here. So now what we've got to do is the 10 rows down to the bottom of the needle case just here. So what I've done is, now I've left the keeper bead in place just to make sure the tension on that first row stays reasonable, and I've left the tail at the top just in case we need to make any adjustments to the other side of the needle case when we get to the end. And I've just left a keeper bead. I've just got a new piece of thread and I've tied a keeper bead to it, and what I'm going to do is, now this is my top tip for finishing a needle case, is I'm actually going to turn the grid so that it's carrying on working in the same direction as I'm used to. So I haven't got to try and read it backwards. I'm not going to bead downwards or anything like that. And you can see that I need to join in this new thread so that it's emerging from the bead number 36 on the original start row. So the thread and keeper bead are currently coming out of bead number 1, so that will be my indicator. So if I point here, so the bead, the needle and thread are or the keeper bead and thread are coming out of this bead here, which is bead number 1. So this is bead number 36. So that's the bead I'm going to come out. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come up through a couple of the green beads there so that I'm coming out at the end there. So I've got my two threads with the keeper beads on, and all I'm going to do now is start beading as before. So pattern stays the same, so we're going to pick up a bead that matches the bead that we're coming out of. Just this time round, because we're working in the opposite direction around the tube, we're picking up a white and then an orange, and we're finishing with the turquoise rather than the other way round. So we'll just do this, and we've got about 10 rows to do, and then the decreasing for the bottom of the needle case. So we will whip down through this. Here. And we just add a new row. Now, what you might find is, because we're working into the first row of beads that we've added, is that you just need to even out the tension slightly. So if you need to do this, just give your work a squeeze between your thumb and your forefinger, and it will just sit nice and flat. You might need to give it a little bit more of a pull as well, just to make sure everything's nice and even and you can't see the join. So we'll do this, and we'll keep going round. And again, we're not doing what I told you to do and making sure you add each bead on individually. I'm putting them on a couple at a time, which is very naughty of me. I should do better, at least when you've got video evidence of it. Now, you can see here, because we're getting back to the tail, we're just getting a little gap where this bead's pulling loose. So just make sure this is the tail from the first half of your beadwork, not the one that we've just added, but the one from the beginning. Just put that under a little bit of tension, and it'll just hold those beads tight while you add this row of beadwork. So we're just picking them up one at a time. And we're going round there. I've just got a little loop there, so we'll just undo and pull through. See, and this is why you should do what I tell you to do and not what I do, because we're getting a lovely little knot there that would be avoided by doing the beadwork correctly. we go. So a blue bead. And then now you should be super familiar with this by this point here. It'll come through, final white bead into the green, and then step up. Okay, and we'll do that all the way around. But what I'm actually going to do is, because this is a simple geometric pattern, I'm actually going to cheat, and I'm going to slide the beadwork down the tube, down over the needle case, so that the end is sitting flush. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing the decreasing for the bottom of the needle case. I will go back and complete this, because obviously you need to complete this so that when you put the lid on, which I've done the beading for the body of the lid, but not the top of the lid, so that when you put it together, oops, which is much easier when everything's connected, you can do it so that that sits flush, but obviously you won't have the top showing there, so it'll sit like that, and the join will be pretty much seamless. So, but for the purposes of the video, I'll do it this way. So we'll come down, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do first row all in white, and then I'll do the decreasing rows in the different colours, so partly so you can see it, but partly because it will also look quite attractive. So I'm going to start by putting on a row of all white delicas, so just going all the way around. So there we go. You can continue the pattern if you want, but it's up to you. So just this first row is it's just another plain row, so it's exactly the same as all the other rows you've done. It's just 18 beads around. Now you might find, if you're a left-handed beader, that or you probably will find that it's actually more comfortable for you to bead in an anti-clockwise direction, whereas most right-handed beaders find it easier to bead in a clockwise direction. So if your stripes happen to run the other way around the needle case, it doesn't really matter. The only time you need to watch and be certain of which way you're following the grid is if you've got a grid that's got lettering on it, because obviously if you bead that backwards, so in the direction opposite to the one the designers designed it in, it's excellent English there, then you could find that you end up with a word with the letters all reversed. So just bear that in mind, but most of the time it doesn't really matter. And if your pattern is running in the opposite direction to the way the designer intended, then it doesn't really matter. It's you know, it's all part of the design choices, and you can just say that yours is a unique variation. So okay, last bead, here we go. So in and a step up, which is into a white bead this time. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start decreasing, and to do this we're going to decrease into every other, we're going to put a bead into every other space around the tube. So the video that I did that is tubular peyote decreasing is helpful, so if you want to go back and watch that and then come back to this one, then that might be a good idea. So what I'm going to do for this row is I'm going to pick the orange beads and do a row in orange. So we go through a bead, and then we go across the gap and into the next bead, like that. Pick up one, go put the bead in the gap, and then skip a gap. So if you can see there, hopefully the needle is sitting in the gap, so just pull that through, and there we go. And essentially we're decreasing the number of beads here by half. There we do that. And you can already see that this is starting to curve in over the end of the needle case. Okay, so we're going to go skip through and then step up into the first bead that we added in this row, like so. And there we have your first set of decreases. So that's decreased it from 18 beads down to 9. So we've stepped up into this orange bead, and now we're going to add a pair of beads into each gap. I'm going to do this in green so you can see them nice and clearly. Obviously you can choose to do your bottom all in one colour or in different colours, or you know, more subtle variations than this, but for a video it's handy to have it in lots of different colours so you can actually see the progression. So there we go, we're going to add 2 beads at a time into each gap here. So this isn't actually increasing, although it looks like it because you're adding pairs of beads, because what we're going to do on the next row is we're going to treat each pair of beads as if they were one bead. So I'll keep going through. And again. And then our final pair there into the orange, and then step up into the green. Okay, so now we're going to add a single bead between each pair. So this time we'll go blue. So go through the pair, like so. And just as you're doing this, just encourage the beads to sit where you want them to. So if you need to give it a bit of a poke, a bit of a pull, then do. So I'm doing it this way, you do get a nice flat bottom on your beadwork. So okay, and the final bead in there. So, oops, in between that pair, and step up into the blue bead. And there we go. So as you can see, after I stepped up into my last blue bead, I've had a small accident on the bead mat, and I've managed to shuffle my beads together and make myself quite a pretty bead soup. This is workable. I've only got another half dozen rows to do, so I am going to leave it. So I apologise if this is going to stress anybody out, but for the sake of what we've got left to do, it's going to be absolutely fine. So if I just move this way a little bit, I shall be in the centre of the screen to be able to film. So what we're going to do, so to recap, we've just added a blue bead between each of the pairs of green beads that we've added there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a single row of beads. So I'm going to use the white ones again, because that was what we used for the plain row at the beginning of the decreases. And I'm just going to add one bead into each gap. So here we go. So Oh, missing it. Put the actual bead on the thread, which would have been helpful. I'll just undo that. So, and then we'll just take the end off that because it's got a bit hairy again. I'll just re-thread the needle. Oops. And try actually picking up a bead this time. So, there we go. Okay, so there we go, that's adding a single bead into each gap, and it's still sitting nice and flat and flush to the bottom. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do another set of decreases. Because we're working on 9 beads now, we can't do the same decrease pattern as before, because going into every other bead doesn't work because we've got an odd number of beads. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to add a bead, and then we're going to skip 2 spaces. So go through 1, like so, and then skip 2. So there's 1 and there's the second. There, and then do that again. So pick up 1 and skip 2. That's 1, 2. There, and we're going to pick up 1 and we're going to skip through 2. 1, 2. There, and then we're going to step up into that orange bead that we added first, like so. Okay, and now, as before, we're going to add pairs of beads into the gaps. So we're going to pick up 2 and go through, like so. Pick up 2 and go through. Oops, it's just come a bit loose. There, go through there. Just going to give that a little tug just to make sure everything's sitting where it's supposed to. And then find 2 more beads out of this green soup and go through like so. And there you can see you've got a nice triangle forming on the bottom of the needle case. So all we're going to do now is we're going to go through those 3 pairs of beads that we've just added to reinforce. Like so. So just through this 3rd pair again. And that is a very neat, pretty well covered bottom. If this little hole in the middle bothers you, you can pop another bead in there if you want to. It will sit at an angle, but to be honest, I don't think it needs one. If we just go under that thread and just see what it looks like. Oh, no, actually, I like that in there, so we'll just come back through that one. And that'll sit in place. And then we can finish off this thread end. So we'll just go through a couple of beads. If we come back down into where there's a bit more of a solid piece of beadwork. Sorry, drifted off camera again. Through into a bit more of a solid piece of beadwork. And then tie a knot. Oops. We'll just weave back round on ourselves, so come back through that one and down. And through a few more. and through there, and then I'll just grab the scissors and we'll cut that flush there. So put that out the way. So what I will do is I will finish off the pattern on the top of this needle case to meet this chamfered edge just here, which will then meet with the lid. And then I've got the body of the lid beaded up as I showed you before, and I will do the decreasing on the lid, but I think what I will do is I will just do a plain white lid so that we've got the exciting bit on the bottom and the lid is nice and plain. So I'll make sure that I get this finished and show you, and then we can take some photos and put those on the website as well. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, any problems, anything you need any advice with, you can get in touch with the shop. You can give us a ring, you can send us an email, you can send us a Facebook message, you can put a comment in the comment section below the video as well. So I hope that's been useful, and I will see you again soon.